please read this carefully, and I would appreciate if you'd prepare the necessary documentation to convince the airport that I'm carrying that kind of insurance. Oh, and by the way, they don't want paper certificates. They would really like it. They would like it so much they won't allow any other way. They would like it if you would contact this fellow named Bill up in Denver with insert.com. Currently, it costs the broker about $3 whole to register with that network, and then the other cost is every time somebody looks at your certificate of insurance that's on time electronically, it costs $0.25. Eventually, Bill's probably going to raise his prices a little bit, but I give you that information, and that's pretty granular detail, so that if you go to your broker and your broker says, nah, I don't do that, or no, I'm not going to do that, then you can explain to your broker it's a relatively inexpensive affair, and then you can gently explain to your broker that the airport's not going to do business with you unless you provide your insurance that way, okay? So we talk about insert.com, and I think I pretty much hit this. Before you execute your contract, make sure that your broker or your agent knows what the requirements are. That person needs to contact insert.com, establish a profile with them for a whole $3, and then once your insurance profile, which we would normally think of as your certificate of insurance, once that's set up in insert.com, a couple of things happen. First of all, we find out electronically that you have met all the requirements. Second thing is, Bill up in Denver tracks the expiration dates, and he is in a position to generate reports, but probably more importantly, he's also in a position to generate reminder letters if that becomes necessary when somebody gets close to the end of their policy. So it's an electronic tracking system, and down there at the bottom it says paper, faxed, or emailed certificates are not going to be acceptable. So what we've done in the past, all of us, which is work with paper insurance certificates, is sort of part of history on a go-forward basis here. The other thing that Norma has asked me to talk about is the concessions department. There's a good word I like. The concessions department is very circumspect. That's a real fancy name for careful. So being that they're careful, they enter into the agreements with the concessionaires with a requirement for surety. Surety is also a rather fancy word for cash deposit, but we've got 3 different ways to meet that. And typically, what is asked by the concessions department is a deposit that equals 25% of a year's rent. Now you notice I put that one other way. It's equivalent to 3 months' rent, but then at the bottom, if you present a very special and unique set of circumstances, the concessions department may ask you for a different deposit. You can meet that deposit at least one of 3 ways. With a cash deposit, I don't know that anybody in this room would refer somebody away if they came up with cold hard cash, so we will accept cash. You can also provide what's called a surety bond, which means you go to an insurance carrier, and essentially a bond is a promise that the insurance carrier will pay that if you become unable to do so. But it's like buying an insurance policy. And what needs to happen in that case is the surety company must be licensed in the state of Texas, and the airport must be shown as the obligee. The other thing that we don't see too much of, but we certainly are not offended by it, is if you go to your bank and ask them to draft up an irrevocable letter of credit. And as you may know, the bank will charge you a sum of money to do that, but essentially that takes the same muscle as a surety bond or cash, okay? The last few things I'll point out to you that are not totally unique to the airport, but something that you might want to know, is that when we ask you to show us that you have insurance, One of the things, and by the way, my job and Juan's job is to protect Norma and to protect the airport board from everything. So that makes us the U.S. official flak catchers in many, many circumstances. We have a requirement at the airport that if you're going to buy insurance, it has to be from a company that's strong enough to pay claims. And the rating agency that looks after that is called AM Best. You have to have an A- and then a Roman numeral 7 rating. And the A- has to do with what AM Best thinks of the insurance company, and the Roman numeral has to do with how many dollars they're worth. The insurance policies, with a couple of exceptions, need to be written on what's called an occurrence basis. And as Norma mentioned, that's a term of art that your insurance agent will appreciate a whole lot more than most of us will. And we also require that the insurance policy, meaning the insurance carrier, name the DFW International Airport Board as an additional insurance on your policies. Now, some of you may know that it doesn't work that way for workers' comp, and we understand that. But for general liability and auto liability and if there's an umbrella requirement in your case, you'll be needing to name us as an additional insured. And thanks to the Supreme Court of the state of Texas in 2006, we have to go one step further and ask your broker to prove that by way of making available to us an actual endorsement to the insurance contract. And this is actually not a big deal. But essentially, the state Supreme Court said in a case in 2006 that if the owner, which in this case would be DFW Airport, doesn't ask for that endorsement, and for some reason the insurance company never put it down, then DFW Airport is out of luck. So we go that one further step based on a ruling in December of 2006 by the state Supreme Court. For the workers' comp policy, we will ask you to ask your insurance carrier to give us a waiver of subrogation. Again, that's a sophisticated phrase that says if your workers' comp insurance policy has to pay a claim, they will not turn to DFW Airport and ask for reimbursement. If you are involved with subcontractors, what you will notice in the lease or any other contract with the airport is that if you're the main woman or the main man or the main company, what we call in the construction business the prime or the general, and you hire subcontractors, the subcontractors are also subject to these insurance requirements, but because you are the primary force, you're also responsible for making sure that your subcontractors carry that kind of insurance. Or you can carry it for them, either way. And we do check on that. So if in fact you use a sub to do the build out of a concession, that sub has to come up with the same insurance that you're coming up with, or you have to name them on your policies. And the last thing I'll point out is, again, every contract with the airport has this. It's the indemnification and hold harmless clause. What that really says is it lays out very carefully your responsibility as a business partner, as a signator to a contract, that if something happens as a function of your negligence, then you're responsible for it. Which, if we go back to the beginning of this presentation, is why you buy insurance in the first place. The fancy name for that is risk transfer. So, the last thing I'll leave you with is the reminder that as you get close to preparing a response to an RFP, and if you are the one who's selected and you're getting ready to sign a contract with the airport, please photocopy the insurance requirements from that lease document or from that contract and make those available to your insurance agent or your insurance broker. In that will also be the thing about insert.com, and you may be the one, I get the pleasure of doing this about once a month, you may be the one who gets to educate your insurance broker or your insurance agent about insert.com, and it's not a hostile, foreign, and implacable environment. It's something that actually helps everybody save some time and save some money. Okay. Are there any questions at this point concerning insurance requirements? boring, boring, boring. Okay, got it. All right. Juan, if you would step up with me for a second here. I am now looking for Norma Roby. Ah, there she is. Stay right there. Congratulations. Thank you. Aren't you glad you came? And may I see a hand of Ricky Edwards? There he is. I tell you what, I saw this on my table, and I almost didn't know what it was. This is, in fact, a money clip. And since I don't have any money, I don't know what it is. Thank you very much.